is this the ultimate pre-war sleeper engine? So inside this engine, we have completely redesigned all of its internals. And although on the outside it will look normal, but inside it's a very different animal. So we'll have a little look at that now. So this is a 1680 Lagonda engine. And the customer approached us and said he wants to make the most wild 1680 engine that he can do. So we've ultrasounded all the bores and bored it out as big as we possibly can go. That's number one. Second thing we've done is we're starting to design a crankshaft. We're halfway through the design, and I'll show you how that's being done right now. So we've actually made a different crankshaft with the biggest stroke we can possibly fit in there. And also we're redesigning the pistons so that the compression height is much lower than on the original piston, and we're getting rid of one of the piston rings, so we're going to have 2 compression rings and an oil ring. And we're also altering the length of the conrods, and we're converting it from white metal to shell bearings. And some of that's quite tricky too, so we'll have a look at that now. There's a lot going on in here, so we'll talk about things one at a time. So one of the first things we did was design a crankshaft to remove the white metal. So what we did there is decided to go for shell bearings, and we're actually using Ford V8 shell bearings that have a built-in thrust on the actual shell itself, because we were worrying about how we're going to machine the block to take a thrust and all this sort of stuff. So that's what we did, and the thrust is on this journal here. But then you can see the bearing's actually in there at the moment, and that's taking care of our thrust, whereas the thrust used to be held elsewhere on the crank. Now, once we got all of our bearing shells in place, and then we knew what size crank journals we needed, and we could start designing the crank. And we wanted to go as much stroke as possible, so we made an estimation of what we thought we could get away with, and then we made as you can see here, a 3D printed section of the crank, which we made on our own 3D printer in-house. We've printed off just a small section so that we can then put a conrod on it, rotate it, and make sure that the conrod doesn't clash with the block. And most importantly on this particular engine is that the conrods, like the middle of the conrod, halfway up its length, that doesn't hit the side of the cylinder bore, which on this particular engine has already got cutouts because that tolerance was already very tight. And if we're going to be putting uprated rods in these, like these are I-beam rods at the moment, and we're going to change to H-beam rods, which tend to be a bit chunkier in that direction, we needed to make sure that everything was going to miss. So we've made our plastic crankshaft with our new increased stroke. I think it's around 8 mil, and we've put that in the block. The next thing we needed to do was to make an adjustable conrod. So we've actually got an original conrod, cut it down the middle, machined 2 flats on it, made some little plates with nuts and slotted holes so we can adjust the length of our conrod. Then the next process was to make a piston. So we got a standard piston, we machined the top off it, took the crown off, took a huge amount of material out of the middle, and then put it back together so that then we could reduce the compression height. And the compression height is the distance between the centre of the gudgeon pin to where the piston starts to come out of the deck, effectively. The reason we want to get that as low as possible is then we can get rid of one of the piston rings. The original piston had 4 rings. This one's now going to just have 2 compression rings and an oil scraper. And the main thing is reducing weight. So making the piston a lot lighter, reducing the reciprocating mass, which will help with it, let it rev and things like that. So we've now got an adjustable height conrod, our dummy crank, and our piston with the top machined off. So now what we can do is we've been able to adjust the length of the conrod so that the piston is just coming level with the deck face. So we now have got set our compression height, and then we can rotate the whole assembly and see where the rod clashes. And in this instance, it is very close to the cutout that's been machined in there for the original conrod. So we know that could potentially be a problem when designing the new rods. That's that side of things taken care of. So the next thing is we needed to make sure that our valves aren't going to clash our piston, because we want to increase the compression ratio. I mean, the compression ratio on this engine would have been incredibly low. I can't remember what it calculated as. It's probably something like 8 to 1 or something like that, maybe 7.5 to 1 or something. So, and we're going to raise this up quite a lot more than that, more towards the 9.5, 10 maybe even. We'll see. We're not quite there yet. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put we've got the camshaft in here, and then we've got a dial, a protractor on the front of the crank and a protractor on the front of the camshaft. Now obviously the crank spins twice as fast as the cam. So what we did is we put a big dollop of plasticine on the top of the piston to simulate a dome, a large dome. And what we're doing is moving this 2 degrees, this 1 degrees at a time, bit by bit. And we've got valves set up on this cylinder, and those valves will press into the plasticine. And then we can then dismantle the engine, look at the piston and go, that's where our limits are. We need to leave around 1.5 mil gap between the valve face and the piston. So we know that that's what our piston design can look like, and then from that we can figure out what compression ratio we're going to achieve. So it's all quite complicated, and there's other ways you could do this. You could probably 3D scan the whole thing, but in the real world, we find this the most cost-effective and foolproof way of making sure that you're going to build an engine that will just go together once you've got all the parts done and machined and manufactured, rather than going, oops, we forgot something, it's now hitting the side of the engine. Whereas this, we've already done it. We've made it out of 3D printed components. So yeah, so that'll be really interesting to see how this one progresses. The next phase is send this back to Arrow to have them finish the design of the crank and then start making the crank for us.